For question 5i is actually a question on R formula. So for this type of question, usually it again follows a systematic step. You just make sure to be able to know the flow of the steps, and generally speaking, this type of question is a giveaway mark. But for this question, you should probably watch through the entire video, because I feel that this question is quite interesting and perhaps it might be slightly challenging if this is an O-level question. So without further ado, let's try question 5i. So using r cosine theta minus alpha, okay, so let's write down this formula. So r cosine theta minus alpha, okay, is actually equals to a cosine theta plus b sine theta. Okay, so we are supposed to use this, and we know that r is more than 0, and the alpha over here is actually more than or equals to 0 degree and less than or equals to 90 degrees. So we are required to solve the equation 5 cosine theta plus 8 sine theta equals to 6 for theta more than or equals to 0 degree and less than or equals to 180 degrees. So for this question over here, we can express 5 cosine theta plus 8 sine theta equals to 6. So we can write this as r cosine theta minus alpha, which is equals to 6. So I can do this because this is the r formula over here, and this is a sum, is a add. Same goes for here, is a add. Okay, and it's a cosine theta over here, and sine theta over here, and sine theta over here. So we can do this. Okay, so for your r, it will be the square root of a square plus b square, in this case 5 square plus 8 square, which this evaluates to 64 plus 25, that gives us 89. So square root 89. And for alpha over here, so let's find alpha. So for alpha over here, it will be tangent alpha equals to b over a, which is 8 over 5. So this means that my alpha is actually tangent inverse of 8 over 5. So this gives us 57.9946 degrees. So we're going to write it out in full. So r is square root 89 cosine theta minus 57.9946 degrees. So this is equals to 6, which means that cosine theta minus 57.9946 degrees is equals to 6 over square root 89. So then my basic angle alpha will be equals to I probably shouldn't write alpha over here because it's being used over here. So I'm going to write basic angle equals to cosine inverse of 6 over square root 89. Okay, remember the value here must be positive. So this is equals to 50. Let's see, cosine inverse. This is actually equals to 1 moment. 50.5059 degrees. So we know that cosine is positive, so it is in the first and the second quadrant, which means that theta minus 57.9946 degree is actually equals to cosine is positive, so it is in the first and the fourth quadrant. Yeah. So theta minus 57.9946 degrees. Okay. So we have our negative angle first, which is minus 50.5059 degrees. And so this is in the fourth quadrant. And then we have 50.5059 degrees. So this is in the first quadrant. Okay. So to explain this, I'm going to draw out the sorry, one moment. Yeah, to explain this, right, I'm going to draw out the ASTC over here. So we have our first quadrant. So this will be my first angle, or the second angle has indicated in the answer over here, 50.5059 degrees. And we also know that in the fourth quadrant, we have cosine to be positive. So there's another theta over here, which is the negative, because now we are having an arrow in the clockwise direction. So it's a negative angle if it's in a clockwise direction, and a positive angle if it is in an anti-clockwise direction from the positive x-axis over here. Okay, so the reason why I did not take the angle from here to here, okay, because this is also another possible angle, is because theta is between 0 degree and 180 degrees inclusive. Okay, so if I take this angle here, is actually 360 degrees minus 50.5059. So this is actually more than 180 degrees. So that answer will be rejected. So I did not take this angle over here. Instead, I took the negative angle for the fourth quadrant and the positive angle in the first quadrant. Okay, so then this evaluates to theta is actually equals to 7.4. Let's check. 7.4887 degree, and sorry, and 108.5005 degrees. So yes, we can see that these angles are acceptable because it is within the range as stated in the question. So then theta will be rounded off to one decimal place. That will be 7.5 degree and 108.5 degrees. So one decimal place for angle, and we are done with 5 part I. So let's move on to 5 part II, which is to state the largest value of 20 minus bracket 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x whole thing square, and find the corresponding value of x such that x is within these angles. Okay, so earlier we have actually deduced that 5 cosine theta plus 8 sine theta is actually equals to square root 89 cosine theta minus 57.9946 degrees. So in that case, we are looking at 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x. So let's just replace all the theta by x. So 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x is equals to square root 89 cosine x minus 57.9946 degrees. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to do the inequality so that you all can see clearly. So let's look at cosine x. minus 57.9946 degrees. So we know that this graph is actually bounded by -1 below and and 1 on top. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by square root 89. So square root 89 cosine x minus 57.9946 degrees. So this is less than or equals to square root 89 after multiplying square root 89 on the right hand side and multiplying square root 89 on the left hand side to -1, we get minus square root 89. So in this case, we are going to take the square of this. Okay, we are going to take the square of this because we are looking at the square of this, right? So we're going to take the square of this. So square everything. Okay, this will be 0 because when you take something square, right, the value is more than or equals to 0. Agree? So then this will be this whole thing square. So square root 89 whole thing square is 89, and we put a minus. Okay, so we are going to put a minus, and then the right hand side we do the minus accordingly. So then I'm going to multiply this inequality by -1 so that I can include the minus sign, and because I do that, I need to swap the inequality sign. So this means that 0 is more than or equals to minus square root 89 cosine x minus 57.9946 degrees square and more than or equals to minus 89. Okay, in this case, we know that this expression over here, I mean this trigo expression over here, is equals to minus bracket 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x bracket whole thing square. So I'm going to replace that. So I get this over here. Now I'm going to add the 20, okay, to the inequalities over here. So 0 plus 20 is 20. And this will be minus, sorry, so it will be 20 minus 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x bracket square, and adding 20 over here gives me minus 69. Okay, now I'm going to rewrite this inequality properly. 20 minus bracket 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x bracket square. So this is more than or equals to minus 69 and less than or equals to 20, which means that the largest value based on this inequality, we can see that it is equals to 20. Okay, and the corresponding x value for the largest value, okay, we simply just equate 20 minus 5 minus, sorry, we simply just equate this over here with this. So 20 minus bracket 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x bracket square equals to 20. So cancel, we get minus 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x bracket square equals to 0, which means that 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x must be equals to 0, and we know that for 5 cosine x plus 8 sine x, right, is actually this expression over here. Remember? But just that I replaced the theta with x. Okay? So we can see that this is actually equals to square root 89 cosine x minus 57.9946 degrees equals to 0. So divide this over to the right hand side, we get cosine x minus 57.9946 degrees equals to 0. Okay, so what will this angle be such that cosine of this angle is 0? So if we draw the cosine graph, right? So this is the cosine graph. Okay, so then cosine of 90 degree will be 0, and cosine of 270 degrees will be 0, right? So then this means that x minus 57.9946 degree equals to 90 degree 270 degree. Okay, but you can clearly see that if I were to add this one over, it is actually more than 180 degrees for x. So I have to reject this answer. So never mind, let's just keep it first. So x equals to 147.9946 degrees and 327.9946 degrees. So we have to reject this because the question asks for the range of the angle x between 0 degree and 180 degrees inclusive. So this is okay, but this one is more than 180 degrees, so we will have to reject it. So my final answer will be x is approximately equals to 148.0 degrees, rounded off to 1 decimal place, and we are done with question number 5 on R formula. So this question, I feel that is a good practice, especially when for R formula kind of question, you are supposed to express it in that form, R cosine theta minus alpha, after which once you're able to do that, you get around 3 to 4 marks. That is pretty standard. And the next question that usually comes after this is to find the maximum or the minimum value and the corresponding value of theta or x. And it is also a textbook question, very standard way of answering. So this question is a little bit difficult because it involves a square. So I think that this question is a good practice for students, and probably I would say that this is the harder version of the R formula. And one thing to take note when doing this question, especially if you are doing your O level or N level, is to actually be very careful whether the question is in radians or degree, because if you make the mistake at the start of selecting the wrong so let's say if the question is in radian, right, and you do in degree, then you are pretty much going to lose a lot of marks along the way. So be very careful and read the question carefully, whether the question is asking for degree or radian.